Welcome back, everyone, to Echoes of Ihsan. I'm so excited for today's deep dive because we're going to be exploring Sunan Ibn Majah, Volume 3.
A truly fascinating collection.
Yeah, for those who may not be familiar,
It's okay.
it's a collection of hadith,
Right.
which are accounts of the Prophet Muhammad's sayings and practices.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular volume, Volume 3, covers a whole bunch of different areas.
It really does. It's got everything from personal conduct to social interactions and financial dealings.
So it's like this mosaic
Exactly.
of just Islamic guidance
Yeah.
on basically all aspects of life.
That's right. And what's really cool is that even though it was compiled centuries ago,
Yeah.
these teachings are still super relevant to us today.
Oh, for sure. So in our deep dive today,
Okay.
what exactly are we going to be uncovering?
Well, we'll be talking about a whole range of things, but some of the big ones are zakat.
Okay.
Like the cornerstone of Islamic finance.
Yeah.
We'll also touch on marriage and divorce, oaths and expiation, the ins and outs of business transactions, legal rulings,
Wow.
and even that, sensitive topic of inheritance.
It seems like we're going to cover pretty much all the bases.
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. The whole concept of zakat has always been super interesting to me.
Yeah,
It's not just like regular charity, right?
you're right. It goes way deeper than that.
Yeah.
It's actually one of the 5 pillars of Islam.
Oh, wow.
So that should tell you how central it is to the faith.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's really an act of worship,
Hmm.
and it's meant to purify our wealth
Okay.
and allow it to grow both spiritually and materially.
So by giving a part of our wealth to those in need,
Mm-hmm.
we acknowledge that everything we have is actually a gift from God
That's right.
and that we have a responsibility to share it.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful reminder that our wealth isn't truly ours. It's more like a trust from God,
Yeah.
and we have to manage it responsibly.
That's a really good way to put it. And it's not just money we're talking about here.
Right. Zakat actually applies to a whole bunch of different assets.
Oh, like what?
Well, it could be things like livestock,
Okay.
crops, gold and silver. The list goes on.
So basically all of our blessings,
Yeah.
not just our finances.
Yes.
I remember coming across Hadith
Yeah.
1814,
Yes.
and though it is classified as daif,
Meaning it has a weaker chain of narration.
right,
Right.
it still gives us some really valuable insight
For sure.
into how to actually calculate zakat.
Uh-huh.
Like it mentions specific amounts due on sheep, camels, and cows.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Even though it's considered daif,
Yeah.
it's often used to show how detailed and meticulous Islamic financial principles really are.
Right. Because there are guidelines for so many different types of wealth.
Yeah. And it highlights how serious Islam takes financial responsibility and social welfare.
For sure. Every detail matters.
Absolutely.
When it comes to fulfilling our obligations, both to God and to those in need.
Well said. Now, what do you think about Hadith 1819? It talks about land ownership,
Okay.
specifically land acquired through war. It says that this type of land actually belongs to the Islamic State,
Oh, interesting.
with the ruler being responsible for using those resources for the benefit of the whole community.
It's fascinating how that connects to the discussions we have today
I know, right?
about managing resources and how the state can ensure a fair distribution of wealth.
It's almost like a blueprint
Yeah.
for a system where public resources are used for the common good.
And not just individual gain.
Exactly.
It reminds us that true wealth lies in a society where everyone has the chance to thrive.
I love that. So now let's move from the broader community to something more personal, like
Yeah.
giving charity within our own families.
Yeah, and Hadith 1834 actually highlights this.
Yes, a beautiful hadith.
It mentions how giving charity to one's husband and orphans under her care earns a double reward.
It really emphasizes how important it is to fulfill our responsibilities toward our family.
Especially those who are most vulnerable.
Absolutely. And it's not just a social obligation.
It's spiritual too.
It brings us closer to God.
Yeah, it's like saying that acts of love and kindness within our families are a form of worship in themselves.
Beautifully put. It reminds us that our homes are like the first testing ground for our faith.
Okay.
And how we interact with our families is a reflection of our relationship with God.
So true. We've got to cultivate generosity and compassion, starting with our loved ones.
Definitely.
Now, I know the amount we give isn't the only thing that matters,
No, of course not.
but Hadith 1841 really drives home the value of even a small amount given with sincerity.
Absolutely. It's not about showing off or trying to impress anyone.
Right.
It's about cultivating a genuine spirit of generosity.
And Allah sees our intentions.
Yes, and values our efforts no matter how big or small.
That's really reassuring to know. Even a simple act of kindness done with a pure heart can make a real difference.
It can have a ripple effect.
Okay, so let's talk about something that's a bit tougher.
Yeah.
Begging.
Okay.
Hadith 1849 condemns it, especially as a way to accumulate wealth.
It does. It even compares it to collecting burning coals from hellfire.
That's a powerful image.
Right. It really highlights the importance of seeking sustenance in ethical and lawful ways.
Yeah.
And it discourages people from relying on begging as a profession.
Right. It encourages us to strive for self-sufficiency and dignity.
It does. And it also makes us think about how we, as a society,
Yeah.
can support those who are truly struggling.
Right.
And how we can empower them to break free from cycles of poverty.
Yeah, it's not just about giving money.
No, it's about addressing the root causes of these issues.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to something a bit more universal now.
Yeah.
Marriage.
All right.
Hadith 1848 addresses celibacy. And it might surprise some people
I think it will.
because it actually challenges the idea that celibacy is encouraged in Islam,
The Prophet Muhammad makes it clear that marriage is a sunnah.
a recommended practice.
Right. For all prophets.
So it's a natural and fulfilling part of life.
It really is.
And that's so important to highlight
I agree.
because there's this misconception that Islam promotes asceticism and discourages marriage. But this hadith clarifies that Islam values family life.
Absolutely. And sees it as a path to spiritual growth and fulfillment.
It's like completing half of our faith.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it.
It gives us companionship, support, and a way to raise righteous children.
Exactly. All essential parts of Islamic life.
And once we do get married,
Yeah.
it's not just about being married,
Right.
but building healthy relationships within the marriage.
Yes, and that's where Hadith 1850 comes in.
Okay.
It outlines the rights and responsibilities of both spouses.
Like a blueprint for a strong and loving partnership.
Exactly. Mutual respect,
Mm-hmm.
kindness, fulfilling each other's rights.
And it specifically mentions the wife's right to financial support and kind treatment from her husband.
Absolutely. As well as the husband's right to obedience in lawful matters.
It's about creating a home where everyone feels valued and supported.
Definitely. And speaking of choosing a partner,
Yeah.
we can't forget Hadith 1968. It reminds us to prioritize good character and religious commitment over looks or wealth.
Like a classic reminder that appearances fade,
Mm-hmm.
but shared values and spiritual connection
Yeah.
are the foundation of lasting relationships.
It's about finding someone who will be your companion,
Yeah.
not just in this life,
Right.
but in the hereafter.
So beautifully said. Now, for a different kind of guidance.
Okay.
Hadith 1867 says, a man can't propose to a woman who's already engaged to his brother.
Ah, yes. It's all about respect
Yeah.
and fostering a strong sense of brotherhood.
Within the Muslim community,
Exactly.
we can't let individual desires disrupt communal harmony
So true.
or disrespect each other's boundaries.
It's about putting the well-being of the community above our own wants.
Okay, so let's talk about happy occasions now.
Like weddings.
Yes. Hadiths 1907 and 1909 tell us about wedding practices from the time of Prophet Muhammad.
They encourage having a feast, even if it's something really simple,
Right.
emphasizing the joy of this union
Yeah.
and celebrating with the community.
I love that even Prophet Muhammad's own wedding feast
Yeah,
was modest.
it was.
Just barley mash and dates.
A beautiful example of humility.
Even in celebration.
Exactly. True joy comes from that bond of marriage.
Yeah.
The blessings of family and community.
And not from extravagant displays of wealth.
Well said.
It's a good lesson for all of us.
It is.
Yeah.
Now, Hadith 1903 addresses a sensitive topic, the prohibition of imitating the opposite gender.
Okay.
It highlights the importance of clear distinctions between genders
Okay.
in Islam.
And recognizing the unique roles and responsibilities of each.
Yes, exactly.
It's a topic that's often debated these days.
It is.
But understanding the historical and cultural context is crucial.
Absolutely. It's about celebrating the diversity of creation,
Yeah.
recognizing the strengths of each gender.
And how they contribute to a balanced and harmonious society.
Exactly.
It's a reminder to approach these sensitive topics with respect and understanding,
Yes, and seek to understand different perspectives.
while still holding on to the core principles of our faith.
Beautifully put. So moving on,
Yeah.
let's talk about another sensitive topic, divorce.
Okay.
Islam recognizes that even though marriage is sacred,
Right.
sometimes separation is unavoidable.
It happens.
And Hadiths 2018 and 2026 talk about the Ida.
Right, the waiting period.
Yes, after divorce or the death of a husband.
It's a fascinating concept, really.
Oh, tell me about it.
It's like a time for reflection, even
Yeah.
reconciliation,
Yeah.
and making sure any pregnancy is accounted for.
Right.
It also protects the woman during a vulnerable time.
It's a period of transition and healing.
And it aligns with so many modern-day legal and social protection.
I know.
For women,
It's amazing.
making sure their rights are protected.
Yeah.
It's like the wisdom of these ancient practices still resonates with us today.
They do. And speaking of kindness and compassion,
Yeah.
Hadith 2037 mentions that the Prophet Muhammad gave a gift to a woman he divorced.
Even in separation, there's that emphasis on treating each other with dignity.
That's right. It highlights the importance of kindness, even when things are difficult.
It's a lesson for all of us, no matter our situation.
Absolutely.
Now, let's move on to oaths and expiation.
All right.
Hadith 2390 is interesting. It tells us about the seriousness of taking back charity, really highlighting the importance of commitment
Yeah.
and sincerity.
Charity is sacred.
Yeah,
And once we've committed to helping
we
someone,
got to honor that commitment.
yes, with pure intentions.
It's about building trust
For sure.
and recognizing that our actions have consequences.
Not just in this life,
Right.
but in the next.
Our words and deeds should align.
They should.
And if we do break an oath,
Yeah.
Hadith 2103 outlines the expiation,
Like feeding the poor or freeing a slave.
taking responsibility for our mistakes.
And trying to make amends.
We're all human. We make mistakes.
We do.
But we should always be willing to learn and grow.
And strive for righteousness.
Okay, so let's step into the world of business now.
Sounds good.
Hadith 2133 condemns hoarding food
Yes.
and profiting from someone else's misfortune.
It's incredibly relevant today
It is.
when you see people taking advantage of others
Yeah.
for financial gain.
Our pursuit of wealth shouldn't harm others.
Absolutely not. It's about creating a fair economic system
Right.
where everyone has a chance.
And talking about ethics,
Uh-huh.
Hadith 2160 tells us about unlawful income.
Like selling dogs.
Yeah.
Or the
Yeah.
services of a stud stallion.
Interesting.
Right. But these prohibitions, they reflect the broader principles of Islam.
Oh, how so?
Purity, avoiding harm, ethical conduct
Okay.
in all aspects of life.
Including business.
Yes, our economic activities
Yeah.
should be guided by morals.
And a commitment to the well-being of everyone,
Exact.
not just profit.
Well said. True success isn't just about money.
It's about living with integrity and compassion.
Yes, and social responsibility.
So these hadiths, they're like our guide
They are.
to navigating these complexities.
They really are.
Speaking of navigating complexities, there's Hadith 2332.
Okay.
It sheds light on property rights and responsibilities.
Like safeguarding our belongings.
Exactly. It talks about the responsibility of owners to protect their stuff during the day, and then the accountability of livestock owners if their animals cause any damage at night.
Makes sense.
It's like a framework, right?
It is. It's about accountability.
Yeah.
Taking measures to prevent harm.
To other people's property.
Exactly. Balancing those individual rights with the responsibilities we have to the community.
Our freedom to own things comes with the obligation to manage them responsibly.
I like that. Now let's move on to something a bit more sensitive.
Okay.
Legal punishments in Islam.
It's a topic that can be easily misinterpreted
It can.
if you don't understand the historical context
Ah.
and the principles behind it.
Absolutely.
So let's start with Hadith 2534.
Okay.
It outlines the 3 situations where capital punishment is allowed.
Murder, adultery by a married person, and apostasy.
Right. Serious offenses.
Yes, very.
But how do they fit in with Islam's emphasis on mercy and compassion?
It's important to remember that these punishments aren't applied lightly.
Right.
There's due process.
Okay.
They're reserved for crimes that threaten the very core of society.
Like the sanctity of life, the integrity of the family.
And the unity of the faith.
It's about protecting the entire community.
Yes, exactly.
And even then, there's that emphasis on due process,
yes.
presumption of innocence.
Multiple witnesses or irrefutable evidence.
So many safeguards to prevent injustice,
Absolutely. And remember, Islam really encourages forgiveness.
even for serious crimes.
Yes. God's mercy is infinite.
So these punishments exist, But the focus is on finding other solutions whenever possible,
That's right. It's a balance.
between justice and mercy,
Yeah,
protecting everyone involved.
exactly. Now, what about the punishment of cutting off a thief's hand?
That's mentioned in Hadiths 2588 and 2591.
Mm-hmm.
It's another one that causes controversy,
It does.
but again, it's not arbitrary.
There are specific conditions.
Yeah, the Hadiths actually highlight things to consider.
What?
The value of what was stolen,
Okay.
the security of the place it was taken from, whether the thief was desperate or malicious.
It's about proportionality.
So it's not just a blanket punishment for any theft.
No, not all.
And it was instituted in a time when theft was a huge problem.
It was. It could destabilize society.
So it was a deterrent.
Yes, to protect people's property and livelihoods.
The context helps us understand it.
It does. We have to look deeper than just the surface level.
Okay, so let's talk about preparing for death and the afterlife.
A big topic.
Hadith 2702, it encourages Muslims to write a will,
Especially if they have wealth.
taking responsibility.
For our affairs.
Yep.
Making sure things are distributed properly after we're gone.
According to our wishes,
And Islamic guidelines.
we're stewards of what we own in this life.
We are.
We have to manage it responsibly.
Even beyond our earthly existence.
It's about fairness, justice for our loved ones.
And ensuring our wealth benefits everyone.
Speaking of fairness,
Yeah.
Hadith 2708 sets limits on how much we can leave to charity.
Only 1/3 of our wealth.
Right. It balances our charitable intentions with the needs of our heirs.
Islam encourages generosity, but also recognizes we need to provide for our families.
Our loved ones shouldn't be left struggling.
Exactly.
It's that balance again, right?
It is.
Our obligations to our families come first,
But we can still be charitable.
without harming our loved ones.
Well, else.
It seems like this idea of balance.
Yeah.
It's a theme throughout this entire volume.
It is a core principle of Islam.
Our rights and responsibilities, our worldly desires and spiritual goals.
Even our individual needs versus the needs of the community.
It's about finding that harmony
A middle task.
where we can thrive in all areas.
It's about recognizing that everything is interconnected.
And striving to live a life.
Of moderation,
Yeah.
justice, and compassion.
This reminds me of the concept of shura.
Oh, consultation.
Yes. Seeking different perspectives.
Making decisions through consensus.
Or majority rule.
It's like a blueprint for participatory governance.
Making sure everyone's voice is heard.
Shura is so important in Islam.
It shows the value of collective wisdom.
And inclusivity.
We don't have all the answers on our own.
No, we don't.
Respectful dialogue.
Yes.
Considering different views.
We get better solutions that way.
It challenges the stereotype of Islam being rigid or authoritarian.
It does. Islamic governance is dynamic.
And flexible.
It's about finding what's best for everyone.
Not just a select few.
So many societies could learn from this.
Where polarization is hindering progress.
Absolutely. Now let's talk more about business ethics.
Okay.
We touched on honesty and fairness before, but it's worth exploring further.
It is. It's amazing how Islam gives us ethical guidelines
I know, right?
for even the most everyday things.
Like how we earn and spend our money.
Islam sees wealth creation as a good thing,
It does.
but it emphasizes doing it ethically,
Transparency, honesty,
fulfilling our obligations.
to our partners and customers.
It's like having a moral compass
It is.
to guide our financial decisions.
Not just chasing profit.
Our economic activities impact everyone.
They do.
We have to make sure they benefit society.
Not just ourselves.
Like that hadith about hoarding food and profiting from other people's struggles.
We can't build our wealth that way.
It's about social responsibility,
Yes.
recognizing that we're all interconnected.
Not our actions affect everyone.
True prosperity is when everyone has the opportunity to succeed.
Exactly.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit.
Right.
What are dreams in Islam?
Dreams. They're fascinating.
They are. I don't really understand their role.
In Islam.
Yeah. Are they random or do they have meaning?
Well, in Islam, dreams can be a form of revelation.
Oh, wow.
A way for Allah to communicate with us.
Okay.
They can offer guidance, warnings,
Oh.
even glimpses into the unseen.
But not all dreams are equal, right?
Right. Some are just our worries and anxieties
Yeah.
praying out while we sleep.
Okay.
But others carry a deeper spiritual message.
So how do we tell the difference?
That's where dream interpretation comes in.
Okay.
Islamic scholars have developed guidelines, but it's a complex field.
I can imagine.
It requires a lot of knowledge,
Yeah.
wisdom, understanding the symbolism.
It sounds like it's an art as much as a science.
It is. There are certain types of dreams that are considered more reliable.
Okay, like what?
Dreams during the last third of the night, or dreams involving prophets, angels, important figures.
It's like a window into the spiritual realm.
It can be.
Getting guidance from beyond our everyday awareness.
Exactly. It's a reminder that there's more to life than just the material world.
Speaking of the unseen, let's talk about death and the afterlife.
Right.
It's a topic that can be scary,
It can.
but also fascinating.
For sure.
Islam has a very clear framework for understanding death and what comes after.
It's not about fearing death.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing its significance.
And preparing for it.
By living a good life.
Belief in the afterlife, judgment, accountability.
These are central to Islam.
Yeah.
Our time on earth is temporary.
Our ultimate goal is paradise.
Right.
It motivates us to do good.
To seek Allah's forgiveness.
The Quran describes paradise so beautifully.
It does. A place of unimaginable beauty.
Plus,
Desires fulfilled.
reunited with loved ones.
It offers comfort and hope.
But the afterlife isn't just reward.
No, there's also punishment.
For those who rejected faith,
And lived in transgression.
it's divine justice.
Yes.
Everyone gets what they deserve.
Based on their actions.
It's a powerful reminder.
It is.
Our choices matter.
They do.
They have eternal consequences.
We have to live with purpose and accountability.
You mentioned earlier that balance is a key theme.
Yes.
I'd love to hear more about that.
Balance is fundamental to Islam.
It's about understanding
And everything is connected
and finding that equilibrium.
for individual well-being and societal harmony.
Can you give some examples?
Sure. Work and leisure.
Okay.
Islam encourages hard work.
But also rest.
Yes. Finding that balance so we can fulfill our responsibilities.
Without burning out.
Exactly. And reason and revelation,
Okay.
we're encouraged to think critically,
But also to have faith.
recognizing that our intellect has limits.
So we need both our heads and our hearts.
Yes. And then there's individual rights and social responsibilities.
Islam values the individual,
It does.
but it also emphasizes our obligations.
to our families, communities, and society as a whole.
It's not one or the other.
No.
It's about how they support each other,
Creating a harmonious society
where individuals can thrive.
and contribute to the collective.
Islam isn't just rules and rituals.
It's a way of life
It guides us towards harmony.
and fulfillment.
Okay, let's talk about something else that's often misunderstood.
What's that?
The role of women in Islam.
It's a topic riddled with stereotypes.
We have to address it with clarity and sensitivity.
Absolutely.
So what does Islam actually say about the worth of women?
Islam recognizes the inherent dignity of all human beings.
Regardless of gender.
Yes. Men and women are created from a single soul,
Okay.
equal in the sight of God,
Judged based on piety and actions.
not their gender.
That's true equality.
It is.
But there are practices,
Like what?
like wearing the hijab,
Mhm.
that are often seen as oppressive.
Right, but it's important to understand that these practices are about modesty,
Okay.
dignity,
Protecting women,
from objectification.
they're not about suppressing women or taking away their freedom.
No. Many Muslim women see the hijab as empowering
A symbol of their faith.
and their identity.
So it's about choice.
It is.
Women choosing how they express themselves.
Exactly. And Islam gives women so many rights.
Like what?
The right to education, to own property,
Okay.
to inherit,
Right.
to choose their own marriage partner.
These were groundbreaking rights.
They were, especially for the time.
Islam challenged the status quo,
It did.
elevated the status of women.
And these rights aren't just theoretical,
They're part of Islamic law.
with real-world implications.
Can you give some examples?
Of course. A woman's right to own property
Yeah.
means she can manage her finances
Make her own investment decisions.
without her husband's permission.
For right to inheritance.
Gives her financial security.
Independent.
It's about recognizing that women are capable,
Independent.
able to make their own choices.
And contribute to society.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about motherhood.
Another important role.
Islam holds mothers in such high regard.
It does. Motherhood is sacred.
Noble.
Mothers nurture.
They sacrifice.
They shape the next generation.
Paradise lies at the feet of mothers.
A beautiful hadith.
It shows the reverence Islam has for mothers.
It recognizes their sacrifices and their impact.
Raising good children
Passionate children.
is one of the most important things we can do.
It is. Mothers are the first educators,
Real mom.
shaping their children's character and values.
It's a huge responsibility.
It is, but Islam offers guidance and support.
This deep dive into Sunan Ibn Majah
Volume 3.
has been amazing.
It has.
We covered so much.
From Islamic law to ethical guidelines.
What are some key takeaways for you?
The emphasis on balance stands out.
Yeah.
Balancing our rights and responsibilities, worldly pursuits and spiritual aspirations.
Our individual needs and the needs of the community.
Finding that harmony.
Islam isn't about extremes.
Or rigid rules.
It's about finding that middle path.
That allows us to thrive.
What else?
The importance of intention in everything we do.
Charity, business, worship.
Our sincerity matters.
Our actions are only as good as the intentions behind them.
Exactly.
And social responsibility.
Yes.
Caring for those in need.
Upholding justice.
Working to make things better.
For our communities and the world.
Our faith isn't just personal.
It's about making a positive impact.
As we continue exploring this volume, are there any areas you think would be particularly insightful for our listeners?
The concept of purification. Islam emphasizes both physical and spiritual purification.
Cleanliness and purity are essential.
For our well-being.
And our connection with God.
Exactly.
We often think of purification as just wudu.
The ablution before prayer.
But it's much broader than that.
It is. It extends to all aspects of our lives.
Our thoughts, intentions, actions, interactions.
Striving to cleanse ourselves from impurities.
Both internal and external.
Arrogance and envy.
Dirt and filth. It's a holistic approach.
It is.
Recognizing that our physical and spiritual well-being are connected.
Purity brings us closer to God.
Enhances our lives. Can you give some examples?
Sure. Ghusl, the ritual bath after certain events.
Like sexual intercourse.
Or menstruation.
Physical cleansing.
Symbolizing spiritual renewal.
Washing away spiritual baggage.
That might be hindering us.
And it's not just about rituals.
Right. Islam emphasizes cleanliness in everything.
Our homes, clothes, bodies.
Brushing our teeth.
Washing our hands.
Keeping our surroundings tidy.
Even these everyday actions.
Become acts of purification.
When we see them through that lens.
Exactly. The smallest actions can have a big impact.
On our spiritual well-being.
They can. So what about internal purification?
How do we purify our hearts and minds?
Islam teaches us to cultivate good character traits.
Honesty, kindness, patience, forgiveness.
Controlling our anger.
Resisting temptation.
Striving for excellence.
It's about self-improvement.
Refining our character.
Aligning our actions with our values.
A lifelong journey.
Guided by Islam. Purification is such a fascinating concept.
It is.
It adds so much depth to Islamic teachings.
It reminds us that our faith is about more than just outward actions.
It's about striving for purity in every aspect of our lives.
You've summarized it beautifully.
It's about recognizing that connection.
Between our physical, emotional, and spiritual selves.
Striving to live with purpose.
Meaning and purity.
It's what makes Islamic teachings so relevant.
And timeless.
They're not just about separating the secular and the sacred.
It's about integrating our faith into everything.
Striving for excellence in every part of our being.
I agree. And as we go through this volume,
I
keep noticing the theme of community.
It's everywhere.
It is. Zakah. Social etiquette.
It all emphasizes interconnectedness.
Collective responsibility.
We're not alone.
We're part of something bigger.
Our actions affect everyone.
They do. It reminds me of the Ummah.
The global community of Muslims.
United by our faith and values.
A beautiful vision of unity.
It transcends borders and cultures.
A sense of belonging.
Shared purpose.
Supporting each other.
Standing up for justice.
Working together to make the world better.
Our faith is about more than just ourselves.
It's about contributing to a more just and compassionate world.
Exactly. And the sense of community isn't just for Muslims.
Right.
Islam teaches us to treat everyone with respect.
Kindness.
Regardless of their beliefs or background.
The universal message of compassion.
So true. Before we finish up with this volume, I want to talk about something that's often controversial.
What's that?
Jihad.
It's a topic that needs careful consideration.
And nuance.
It's often portrayed negatively.
Associated with violence and extremism.
But we need to understand its true meaning.
Within Islam.
So what does jihad really mean?
Well, it literally means struggle or striving. And it covers a lot of different efforts.
Internal and external.
Exactly.
So it's not just about fighting.
Not at all. The most important jihad is the greater jihad.
What's that?
It's the inner struggle
Okay.
against our own negativity.
Selfishness, greed, arrogance.
Yes, it's about self-improvement,
Purifying our hearts.
aligning ourselves with God's will.
It's like battling our inner demons.
It is. And it's the foundation for everything else.
Okay.
Once we've mastered ourselves,
Then we can engage in the lesser jihad.
which is the struggle to defend Islam
Okay.
and uphold justice.
So that's about protecting the faith.
Yes.
Fighting against oppression.
But even then,
Yeah.
there are strict guidelines.
Ethical boundaries.
Proportionality.
Avoiding civilian casualties.
Treating prisoners of war humanely.
So it's not about violence for the sake of violence.
No. It's about defense.
Protecting the innocent.
Exactly.
And even in conflict,
Yeah.
Islam encourages peace.
Whenever possible.
War is a last resort.
Only when everything else has failed.
This nuanced understanding of jihad,
Challenges those stereotypes.
it shows the ethical principles that guide Muslims.
In all their interactions.
Islam is about peace
Compassion.
and justice,
We have to understand its teachings and context.
with a sincere desire for knowledge.
Well said. And understanding. It's been a real pleasure exploring this with you.
Likewise, this deep dive into Sunan Ibn Majah, Volume 3, has been incredible.
It has so much knowledge and guidance.
It's amazing how these teachings from centuries ago are still relevant today.
They are offering insights into so many aspects of life.
From how we behave, to how we interact, how we handle our finances, even how we prepare for what comes after.
It really shows how timeless and universal Islamic teachings are.
And thank you to all our listeners for joining us on this journey.
Yes, thank you. Keep exploring these texts.
There's so much wisdom to be found.
Until next time.
May peace and blessings be upon you.